Hello everyone and welcome to Deckbuilding Derezzed. I'm your host CodeMarvelous, and today I am again joined by Constantine, otherwise known as Kelfecil.
Yep. Hello.
So, Constantine is a return guest to our channel, and we're going to be going over the companion deck to his Nisei deck, his Stealth Silhouette. But before we do that, why don't you tell our viewers at home a little bit about yourself, Constantine, in case they didn't see your other video with us.
Okay, so first of all, I really like how you said the companion deck.
It is. It's your companion deck.
Yeah. It just sounded really nice. I never, called it like that myself. So, my name is Constantine. I come from Greece, but I live in the Netherlands. And I'm saying that because I actually came to the Netherlands and started playing a few board games. And then some people were like, oh, hey, do you have a Netrunner deck with you? And I was like, yeah, sure, but I'm a noob. And that's basically how I started Netrunner here. So that's people got me into it. And I basically ended up, long story short, I ended up being the community runner now for the That's gaming community, the That's Netrunner gaming community. And yeah, I mean, I play Netrunner. I really like Zinteki, as I explained in the other episode as well. And I'm not going to go into it now because we're not doing the Nisei. But runner-wise, I never really knew what I liked until at some point I just started messing around with various IDs. I always liked Kate because he has all the saber shenanigans. But I ended up with Silhouette one day before the Belgian Nationals. Literally one day, by the way, before the Nationals. And I was talking with a friend of mine, Robert, and I was asking him, should I play Nisei and Kate? And he's like, no, you should totally go full rogue. So that's why I played the Silhouette deck, and that's
she's pretty rogue.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Silhouette is the criminal with the 40 card deck size, 15 influence. First time you make a successful run on HQ each turn, you may expose one card. So she's all about information. She's the information criminal. And yeah, she's really neat. I think people were excited about her when she was spoiled, and then...
So here's the thing. I mean, when I picked up Silhouette, I picked her up because of the ability. And you said, when you introduced Silhouette, the first thing you said was, she's the 40-card criminal ID. I didn't know that. I picked it up and I was like, oh, hey, she exposes stuff. That's pretty cool. And then I started working with it, and I wanted to make a Blackguard work as well. There was, as you said yourself...
We all wanted to make Blackguard work. Exactly. I tried so hard.
Exactly. As you said yourself, there was a pretty big hype around it, when the ID came out in the console as well. But it just doesn't work. Criminals are not fast enough to set up a Blackguard play. But anyway, when I realized that it just doesn't work like that, I saw that she has 40 cards, a 40 card minimum, and I was like, oh, hey, why didn't I work with that? She's the only criminal ID right now that has a 40 card minimum deck size. Well, what if I can play all the very offensive things, Derezzed, account siphoners and all these things, and make it as how can I say it, as easy as possible to gain access,
right,
to HQ and R&E, and actually end the game, by pressing them all the time and actually gaining access to servers very effectively without spending too much money. So basically, the main idea of the deck was that you have a minimum amount of 40 cards, and that allows you to have only useful things and very effective things. So I needed a very good breaker suite, which is why it became the stealth one. And I needed a very good offensive list as well, a list of good events. So account siphons, how many same old things was really important, because I played with 3 for a very long time, for example, and it wasn't a good idea, but let's get back to that later. But anyway, the cards, the slots in there are very, very carefully picked out, because in 40 cards you want to be finding things fast, and because she doesn't really have the best of draw, it was, especially when I first started playing her, she didn't have, I'm not sure if she had Fisk Investment Seminar. I think it wasn't out yet.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, it just worked. It just went really well because people didn't expect it. They didn't know how to play against the Expose as well. And the Expose is by far one of the best abilities I found myself in the game.
Well, yeah, and for those of you who don't know, or haven't really been exposed to this, one of the biggest things that usually hurts a stealth rig, and you could stop me if I'm saying something wrong, is that you don't want to get baited into a remote run and then it not be an agenda, because then that's reduced your ability to apply pressure that turn.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Silhouette's ability to expose and be like, well, that unadvanced card, do I need to run the remote this turn or don't I? And go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, as you said yourself, you have very limited amount of resources. Even though you get in cheap, it's still like, we can actually start talking about the breaker suit since you mentioned that. Yeah. Like, the main thing about it is that even if you have like you need to find the cloaks fast, you need to find the silencers fast, because you need to be able to activate Switchblade first of all. You will face check HQ, because it's just really good to do and just really important at the start, because you're either gonna res and I'm gonna know what it is on HQ, or you're not gonna res and I'm gonna expose it. Right. And if you do res and I get through it, then I can check what's on R&D or wherever else. So you're constantly gaining information. But as you said, if you want to make a run on the remote, you can always just check HQ first, make the expose, and then see if it's even worth running there.
Right.
Or if they have unrest things and they know that you can break them, you're gonna break through them. And then you can derez things and actually, damage them even more. So an account siphon with a derez or something like that was just amazing. But I'm saying was just amazing because that was back then. And that doesn't really work anymore that well, because corps make a lot of money really fast. So the kind of like the lock game is kind of gone for Silhouette. But the efficiency of having the good breaker suite and being able to find the parts for it fast is still there.
All right, so on that note, let's go right into the Breaker Suite. We have Switchblade, and Switchblade is just a fantastic stealth card, but it's very hungry for credits.
It's just amazing. I mean, I was always annoyed. I started being annoyed by Tsurugis back in the days with Replicating Perfection, where I just saw them and I'm like, I don't want to spend 4 credits. Like, this is crazy, man. Or Combine, for example. People love to play it back then in P and RP. And I basically saw Switchblade and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that is pretty good. And it was at the same time that Andromeda started playing a lot of stealth. And I basically implemented the strategy of the stealth suite into my Silhouette, pretty much. It's not like an entirely new thing. I'm not taking credit for it or anything. But I just figured that, in Silhouette, even though it's a small deck, and even though it might take a little while to find the silencers and the cloaks, as soon as you activate it, you're just done. I mean, you can go through any sentry, you can just run like crazy, and you can actually face check HQ without any problem. The only thing that bothers you with this kind of breaker suite is if there is a Merlin or something like else that might damage you a lot, like, I don't know, a big Heimdall or something like that. But that's rare. And even when that does happen, it's not the end of the game, so...
Right. So, backing that up, we have our second stealth breaker, our Refractor, which is one of my favorite decoders in the game. I remember when this was spoiled, I was so excited that it was coming out, because it really made stealth rigs possible.
I feel as if the card should have cost more influence or more credits.
Yeah, it's a ridiculously good.
So it boosts really good.
1 stealth credit for 3, and it breaks 1 credit for 1 subroutine, and it's 1 to put down, which is just bananas.
And it's just in range for Tollbooth, which is what makes it also really amazing. It's just what made it back then really amazing, because Tollbooth was and still is a really good ice, so...
Yeah.
I mean, you're just paying 4 and a stealth credit to actually get through.
And we're using... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that just is a big word to say. It's not just 4 credits. That's still quite a lot, but thinking that you're going to derez a Switchblade back then was actually real good, so...
Right, and the other thing to keep in mind is criminals have almost always borrowed their decoder. So with that in mind, Gordian is basically like the next best option, and that's...
4 credits. Here's the other thing, now that you mentioned Gordian. If you see the cost of the entire breaker suite, like without the cloaks, it's 6 credits exactly.
Right.
So that's like, if you count the cloaks and the silencers, it goes up to 10. So you're basically just 1 sure gamble and a credit, and you can install your entire breaker suite for all of the game.
Right.
So
and that's important.
yeah, and that's amazing. I mean, you don't have to think about, I will need money real fast or anything like that to actually install things. It doesn't hinder you from being able to press on in the game and having to click credits at the same time. You just do one through gamble when you get it, or just click for credits a few times, you're done. And if you get Desperado as well, the money's going to come in on its own.
Right. And backing up our stealth suite, we have Kuroda, realistically, because Black Cat just doesn't make the cut.
I don't like Kuroda. Honestly, I don't like it because people expect it. I mean, it's like it's the 101 buyer breaker, right? I mean,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I mean, that's why people play it, obviously. But I just feel like if there was another good buyer breaker, I would play it. And I wouldn't play Kuroda. Even if it cost an extra influence, I would cut from somewhere else just to play that. Because when I played Morningstar, I really loved it. Like in my kit, I always played Morningstar because it was easier to install with test runs and stuff like that. And it always destroyed corps that play barriers. Like always, there was no exception. Especially when Eli was just a big thing. Because they were raising Eli expecting for me to pay lots of money, but it just allowed me to go in like crazy. But now, right now, there are not that many corps playing that many barriers. Like, sure, there are a few Waylands here and there, but it's mostly code gates, just filling the entire board. Code gates and sentries.
Right.
So Kuroda is just a safe option for breaking those 3 or 4 strength pieces of ice.
And anything big if you have the money you're getting in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how often do you see higher than 5 strength barriers anymore? If you're not playing Wayland.
I was about to say, you might see on a case. Well, I mean, even food coats isn't really running high strength barriers anymore. Well, because they're not a good value exchange right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's so rich.
Yeah, I don't blame them. So for my part as well, I'm not gonna play something more effective. Switchblade and Refractor are way more important to make work rather than Kuroda. Kuroda is always my last choice for special ordering, by the way, unless I have a use for it, like Account Siphon or something.
That makes sense. So let's jump into the events. We have 3 Account Siphon. I hear Account Siphon is a pretty good runner card.
I used to hate it because we had this guy who played MBN and Andromeda all the time, and he was really good with it. And until I played it myself, and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm kind of becoming the person I hated.
I feel like that's everyone's Netrunner journey.
Yeah, exactly. Like having a cold sour after the tournament, to take the stance of Account Siphons off you.
That's fine.
No, but it's a really good card. I mean, it just...
and you're running HQ anyway, and you can Account Siphon and get your Silhouette ability.
Exactly.
Which is fantastic.
And right now, I'm gonna pair it with the Plascrit, because I only have 1 Plascrit now, but I used to run 2 or 3 because Butcher Soap was really annoying me back then.
Right.
But the thing is, I run only 1 Plascrit now, but still, I am able to keep tags for quite a few things. I still run a few resources because I'm trying them out, but you're able to actually flow tags more now because Corps care about their clicks more than ever. They need to speed up their game if you're playing Criminal. So with Account Siphon, it's not about running Account Siphon and then clicking 2 times to drop the tags. It's more about an economy boost. So you can actually keep the tags and just go like full on. Of course, there are many corps that are playing All Seeing Eye and stuff like that lately, so I'm gonna start being more careful about that again. But there was this time, like, I had this period of time where I played Account Siphon, I dropped the tags. Then there was this period of time, like half a year later, where I played Account Siphon and I would never drop the tags, I would just go full in. And that allowed me to actually, push through all these little barriers, like Eli's, for example. I mean, being able to Account Siphon through Eli's and then use the money on another server that has also barriers was just really good. Because Kuroda is pretty much the only breaker that costs money to use. Refractor and Switchblade don't really cost that much.
Right.
And yeah, man, it's just a really good card. And I used to use it for the lock mostly back then.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good way of accelerating the game. If you can create that huge credit differential, especially early, people are going to start making mistakes. Like the other thing that people often forget, and hopefully they'll start learning again now that people are starting to see Account Siphon go back into decks to deal with IG, that when you start siphoning people start screwing up because it puts people into a really bad mental space.
They start tilting.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody knows how to get back from an account siphon. They don't know what cards to expect after it. They don't know what kind of actions to expect after it. Like, the first thing you think when you're account siphon, you're like, you don't think I'm broke. You think I'm defenseless. Because most people actually take a credit and then install an ICE or something like that. So that they can actually, at least fake that they're protected or something like that.
Right.
But, or, to prevent another account siphon when they do have the money.
Right.
So it's actually like all these little options here and there can vary so much that, as you said yourself, like they can go really into a tilt. Like they could just click for 3 credits and not even anticipate the second siphon or something like that.
Right.
Like they're like, okay, next turn I'm gonna hedge fund. He's definitely not gonna account siphon me for just 3.
Oh, and the answer is you definitely will.
Yeah, exactly. You're definitely gonna get account siphon if you're just clicking for 3.
Yeah.
It's only gonna take me 1 more click to get you to 0. So, and I have 3 more to actually press or anywhere else.
Right. So we've got a single day job.
Yeah. That is actually to combat the current speed of many corps, because despite having 3 sure gambles and the exclusive parties now, 1 day job is actually nice to be able to have money for 3 more turns. Literally, like, at least 3 more turns, if not more.
Right.
Because that allows you to just install anything you get off your stack, and it allows you to actually break into servers for at least 2 more turns. I mean, when you do play it, it's probably going to be mid-game, so I'm always not expecting that much ice to be on the board.
Right. That makes sense. So, on that note, we have 6 copies of Exclusive Party, which, for those of you who may not be familiar with this card, it's a 0-cost event that says you draw 1 card. So, it gives you 1 credit for each copy of Exclusive Party in your heap, or hypothetically, that's already been played, ideally, or maybe pitched, whatever. But it basically gives you 2 different basic actions for 1 click, but then it escalates the later in the game you are. So, explain to me why you decided to put this in.
Okay, so I played Baby before this, Symmetrical Visage, and I actually play tested it a lot, like, I think it was like 5 months ago, when it was spoiled. I think so. And I started playtesting it, and I was like on my desk with my girlfriend just playing Netrunner, and I was like, okay, let's count the credits that I make with Symmetrical Visage in a game, how many times I will draw, how soon I will get it, and then let's see how often I will actually make use of a good exclusive party endgame. It turned out that the exclusive party endgame was actually way better and gave me more speed, because instead of having to install for 2 credits and then actually draw, you just play it, you gain a card, and then all the other ones that will come later are just going to be giving you money. So it's basically like in a 40-card deck, playing an exclusive party instead of an actual resource that gives you money for drawing cards.
It's replacing itself with a card that you actually want and giving you money.
And even better, people do not expect you to jump from 0 credits to like 4 or 5 endgame just because of an exclusive party. You're just like, okay, I'll draw a card and gain 3 or 4, and like, oh, what? Like, sure, I could have been playing Easy Mark, but exclusive party gives so much more speed. It's just really good.
And I think your point of saying in the 40-card deck, that's 100% correct.
Yeah, you have to put 6 of them. It's really good.
But I feel like this is more of an accelerator in a tight deck like this, where you just want to be finding things quick, because you're just burning through your deck and making money for doing so.
Yeah.
You got Fisk Investment Seminar, which is a much debated card.
I had a huge discussion, not huge discussion, I had a small discussion with Gary B, the famous UK player. He's really cool. And he was talking in one of his articles, I think, or on Facebook, I don't remember where exactly, about the card actually always ending up helping him instead of helping the runner when he was a corp. So when the runner played Fisk Investment Seminar, he was always thankful because he got cards that he needed. On the other hand, I've had like 8 out of 10 occasions where Fisk Investment helped me instead of them. And it was for a very long time that I played Fisk Investment Seminar with Hadesard, which I'm really thinking about putting back in the deck. I'm just not really... I just feel like corps are way ahead of that now because they play way faster. So actually giving them agendas, they're not gonna drop them in the archives. They're actually gonna use them some way.
Right.
So I can't really fool them anymore, even though I've won a lot of games with Hades Art in this deck. But Fisk Investment Seminar is still a very much needed card for Silhouette because it's the diesel that the criminals are missing. Even though it's giving cards to the opponent as well. I mean, you can follow up with a legwork or something. Sure, there's always that kind of option. But it's more for you to find cards. Because the logic behind it is basically that you're actually just playing Fisk Investment so that you can actually get the cards.
Hey man, hang on. You were gone for about...
Hello? Are you there?
Yep. You were gone for about 20 seconds.
Oh, okay. Yes. Right. I kept talking in case you wanted me to, cut it there, but it's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll do all the edits and stuff later.
Okay. So let's start from Fisk Investment?
Well, basically, the last thing I heard is it's basically your diesel.
Yes. So the logic behind that is basically that Fisk Investment Seminar is in there because you think that your deck is more important than than your opponent's deck. Like, your deck is gonna do more stuff and faster than your opponent will. Like, if you get the stealth credits and you can install your breakers, you're gonna get ahead of the corp before they can win the game. So
That's
actually
fair.
finding cards, even though you're giving them cards, is very important. So you're okay with them getting a few more.
Okay, that makes sense. Now we have inside jobs, and inside jobs do inside job stuff.
And it's really good against really annoying eyes, or when they have 2 sentries and you only have 2 stealth credits to use on your switchblade. It's nice to give you access into R&D or somewhere else.
Yeah, and it's classic criminal. You know, you basically, like you just said, you pop the inside job when it's going to be a significant price reduction on whatever you were going to need to do.
Yeah.
Legwork is great. You got it as a one-of, which I think is fine in a 40-card deck.
Just a one-off, and I actually tried CBI Raid for quite a while, but it worked pretty well. I actually did amazing combos with it.
You got to do Fisk and then CBI Raid.
Exactly. Yeah. It was really good when I pulled that off, or when I just, do that and then run R&D just to keep him honest, if there are unres dice and stuff, just to force him to res or, just take it anyway. Or just keep installing my own things while he's just drawing cards. But it wasn't really worth it in the end. If they, and especially with the current meta where they have a bunch of assets that is just making him money or just giving him speed.
Right.
There's no point. There's no point to it.
Right. And also, there's something to be said about, legwork just works.
Yeah.
CBI Raid, you have to kind of play around. You know what I'm saying? You have special order. We're a stealth deck. We're running 1 copy of breakers. When you're a criminal, you have special order because it accelerates your deck. Yeah, it's worth noting, I'm picking up a trend, and we also have sure gambles for the same reason that you always have sure gambles in criminal, money acceleration. Yeah. Most of your stuff in this deck is very inexpensive, which means that you're making a lot of money as a criminal, but you're not really spending a lot of it on your own stuff, which is
and that's basically the goal. As I said with the breaker suit, you don't want to slow your game just because you need to make money to install more things. You want to use all of the criminal things, all of the criminal assets and events to actually just go in.
Right. We have 2 Desperado.
Because it's really needed. It's just it costs influence. I've tried so many other consoles. I've tried Q Coherence chip even, which is just 0 to install. So I was like, what if I have a really cheap MU? I can just find it, install it, and I'm done. It just costs 0.
But Desperado's just too good.
Yeah, it's just really good. I mean, it might cost 3, but endgame, it just gives you so many extra bits that you need here and there. It's just really good. It just works. I can't really explain it myself. I didn't really do the math, but it just really worked whenever I played Desperado instead of Q Coherence chip.
Well, let's say you've got a 2 ice Central with a Sentry and let's say an Enigma, right?
Yeah.
If you use stealth credits, you're making a profit on that run, right? Yeah. If you use even 1 normal credit to break one of the subroutines, then it makes it free. That 1 credit in a stealth rig, Desperado is always good, but I feel like because I played Stealth Andy for a while, And, like, that 1 credit return when you're playing a stealth rig is
it
not
really
insignificant.
matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. As you said yourself, it does really work well with the stealth suite, just because you get in free sometimes.
Yeah. We have Plascrete, because I hear having your house burned down is really bad for you.
Yeah, I really hate it.
Yeah. So, and it's also interesting because if you are running the Plascrete and you are Tag Me, people will not usually commit into scorching you and then recycling with Jackson and then trying to kill you again. A lot of times they'll just give up on it.
Yeah. I used to run 2 or 3, as I said, because, I mean, Scorch is still a thing, obviously. But I sometimes switch from 1 to 2 and 2 from 1. I'm not really sure. It's how I feel before the day of the tournament, to be honest.
I feel like that's a meta call.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
You got 1 RDI.
It used to be 2. And here we have to mention the turning wheel, because it always used to be 2 because I love R&D interface. It's just amazing. I mean, I love running R&D because I used to play Saper all the time. So I was like, I always thought in my head, I was like, he's not going to have anything in HQ. Why would he have stuff in HQ? I mean, he has a choice not to.
So, for those of you who don't know, turning wheel, whenever the run on HQ or R&D ends, so that can be successful or unsuccessful.
Yep.
You place 1 counter on turning wheel if you stole no agenda during the run. For spending 2 hosted event encounters, for the remainder of the run, you access an additional card from HQ or R&D.
So that works with siphons, that works with just running there and not doing anything, that works with so many things. And you can run HQ and then just make a run on R&D and just use all your counters. So it doesn't really matter what you're doing, you're gaining counters. And it's just real good. And it costs 2 credits instead of 4. That R&D interface costs.
It's basically a multi-access battery.
Yeah. It's just really good.
And it creates a tremendous amount of pressure, because if you've got like 8 counters sitting on this thing, the Corp is sweating hard. Yeah. Because that's, against the fast advanced deck, that's like, I guess I'll just see your whole hand. Oh, is there an Astro in there? I guess I'll just take that.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I've played against this quite a few times with people who, have been playing Adam and various criminals, because criminals seem to really like this card. And it's a tremendous amount of pressure. It's unreal how much pressure it puts on you.
It really is.
We have 2 silencers. Silencer is a great card. I'm a big fan of any card that has Gabe on it.
Yeah. It's just really needed, because you just need to activate Switchblade. Switchblade, as I said earlier, is the most important breaker of the whole breaker suite. So you don't want to only have cloaks, you want to have silencers as well. And there are also 2 Ghost Runners, of course, to activate Refractor and Switchblade. So you basically have 6 cards in a 40-card deck that activate Switchblade. And Ghost Runner is also one of the cards that I rotate from 2 to 3 and 3 to 2 sometimes.
Right. Yeah, Ghost Runner is just a fantastic card. It's a 1, gives you 3 stealth credits, and then when it's gone, it gets trashed, so you can't pawn it, which I think was a great design choice on their part, because it would be a much more powerful card if you could pawn it after it was empty.
Yeah.
We've got a film critic in here.
Yep. And a Councilman. Did you skip the Councilman?
I did skip the Councilman.
Oh.
But Councilman's really good. So tell me what this is usually derezzing.
So it's for the one annoying caprice that I can't break. Or
that's fair.
Like when I just install it when I want to run a remote that I know an agenda is there, like if I run HQ and I expose something. I just install Councilman just in case I see an upgrade like Caprice or even worse Bati. Because Bati is the thing I fear the most. It's like the one of the few things that can kill my one-off breakers in my breaker suite.
That's fair.
And I don't want to lose them.
Yeah, that's always my concern when you're talking about criminal stealth rig. It's like, well, what happens if you get battied? Like, that's always the question I have for people. And I feel like Councilman deals with that very well.
It's only 1, still, but that means that you need to run carefully in other servers.
Right.
Like, you really need to run carefully in other servers.
So, Film Critic basically says, hey, I hate Psy games.
Yep, pretty much. Wait, that's coming from me?
Yeah. Well, and also, we don't see a lot of Harp these days, but any deck that deals on a mid-season counterattack.
It's a dead card sometimes. It's really a dead card sometimes. I don't really like Film Critic when it doesn't do anything, but when it does, I mean, it's an amazing card and just saves you the entire game. If they're playing any Jinteki, they're bound to have a Future Perfect in there.
Right, so, or even just NAPDs, which you still see floating around.
Yeah, of course. You still see them. Actually, I heard a lot of people are saying, like, you don't see NAPDs. I'm like, what do you mean? I see them all over the place.
I feel like they're starting to creep back in because since we got a bunch of new utility 4-2s, people got distracted, and then people are like, oh, right, NAPD is still just great.
Yeah, even though it costs 1 influence now, it's still a really good card.
Right. We got 2 Ghost Runners, which we talked about before. Just fantastic. We got 2 Same Old Things.
Same Old Things are for Account Siphon and Inside Job and Legwork. Yeah. Rarely, if I'm mid-game and I really need to gain access, I will use it for a special order. But very rarely.
And then we got Turning Wheel, which we already discussed as a multi-access bank. I like this deck a lot. I think it's super tight. I think it's a super efficient rig. I can't wait to test it out. Constantine, thank you very much for coming on. For those of you watching at home, we're going to take this deck for a spin on competitive Jinteki and see how we do. Until we meet again, always be running.